At the start of the story, we meet a guy named Vincent who lives by himself in a rundown house. He keeps to himself and doesn't care much about anyone. He spends time with a woman named Daka, who works as a lady of the night, and they have a special friendship. One morning, Vincent goes to the bank hoping to borrow money using his house as security, but they turn him down because the house isn't worth enough anymore. He walks over to close his account, but they tell him he can't because he owes them money. Frustrated and angry, he heads straight to a bar and drinks until he can barely stand. When he gets home, he crashes his car into his own fence and mailbox. Inside, he tries to pour himself another drink, but he's too far gone. He bangs his hand on the counter, slips on the floor, smacks his head hard, and passes out right there. The next morning, loud noise wakes him up. He stumbles outside and sees that a moving truck hit a tree branch, and the branch fell right on top of his car, smashing it. The truck belongs to a woman named Maggie, who just moved in next door with her son Oliver. She wants to pay for the damage, but Vincent can tell she doesn't have the money, so he says he'll go after the rental company instead. Maggie is starting over after leaving her husband David, and she's trying to make a fresh start for her and Oliver. The next day, Maggie drops Oliver at the bus stop because she has to get to work and can't drive him all the way to school. Oliver rides the bus to his new school, always feeling lonely. In the class, he meets his teacher, a man named Girardi. Right away, Oliver has a tough time. During gym class, the kids notice he's small and weak. A boy named Robert and his friends pick on him. They steal his school clothes and hide them, so Oliver has to walk home in his gym uniform while everyone laughs at him. Meanwhile, Vincent goes to the horse track trying to win some money, but he loses. While he's there, a man named Zucco walks up and reminds him about money he owes. This isn't a normal loan. Vincent borrowed from loan sharks, and if he doesn't pay soon, he's going to be in serious trouble. Oliver can't call his mom because his phone was in the stolen uniform, but he remembers the way home and makes it back. The problem is, his house key was also in that uniform, so he's locked out. Just then, Vincent pulls up next door. Oliver asks if he can use the phone. Vincent isn't happy about it, but he lets the kid inside. Maggie doesn't answer, so Oliver has to wait. When she finally calls back, she asks Vincent to watch Oliver until she gets off work. Vincent refuses unless she pays him. They settle on $12 an hour. Oliver sits on the couch watching old comedy shows, then Vincent gives him whatever snacks he can find around the house. 3 hours later, Maggie comes home. Vincent collects his money right away and tells her the price goes down if she brings snacks next time. Maggie asks Oliver what he thinks of Vincent. Oliver says he actually likes him. He thinks Vincent is cool in his own strange way. Since they live right next to each other, and Maggie has no other choice, she agrees to keep paying Vincent to watch her son. A few days later, Maggie is at work at the hospital during her break and wants to leave to pick up Oliver, but her supervisor tells her nurses aren't allowed to leave during shifts, so she calls Vincent and asks him to pick Oliver up from school. Vincent agrees, but tells Oliver not to ask any questions about where they're going. He also makes Oliver call his mom from a payphone to let her know he's been picked up. While Oliver tries to use the payphone, he runs into Robert and his friends. They corner him and start beating him up because Oliver told the teacher about the stolen uniform. Vincent sees what's happening and steps in immediately. He knows Robert's parents and threatens to tell them everything if Robert doesn't back off. Then Vincent snaps Robert's skateboard in half and warns him to leave Oliver alone from now on. On the drive, Vincent tells Oliver he needs to learn how to defend himself instead of slapping like a little girl. He says size doesn't matter, it's all about the mind. Then Vincent takes Oliver somewhere unexpected. They arrive at a care facility for people with memory problems. Vincent pretends to be a doctor so he can visit a woman named Sandy. She's his wife, and she has dementia. Vincent talks to her gently and with so much care. A nurse named Anna offers to wash Sandy's clothes, but Vincent says no. He's been doing it himself for 8 years, and he's not stopping now. After the visit, Vincent teaches Oliver how to fight. Since Oliver is small and not very strong, Vincent shows him a single move that can drop someone bigger than him if he does it right. That night, Maggie closes from work. Someone from the court stops her. He hands her an envelope. Inside is a notice that David, her ex-husband, is trying to take Oliver away from her. She starts crying. When she walks into Vincent's house to pick up Oliver, Vincent notices and asks why she's upset. His blunt reaction somehow makes her feel a little better. One afternoon, Vincent goes with Daka to the hospital for an ultrasound because she's pregnant. He pretends to be her husband so the appointment costs less. He also owes Daka money, so he pays for the visit himself. At school during class, Oliver's team plays handball against Robert's team. Oliver's team loses. Robert throws the ball as hard as he can right into Oliver's face and makes his nose bleed. Oliver gets so angry that he uses the move Vincent taught him. He strikes fast and Robert drops to the ground, completely knocked out. After school, Oliver runs to tell Vincent what happened. Daka is there, and she's confused about why Vincent is teaching a little kid how to fight. When Daka leaves, Oliver asks Vincent who she is. Vincent doesn't want to say she's a prostitute, so he calls her a lady of the night. Oliver has no idea what that means. The next day, Vincent brings Oliver to the horse track. He teaches him how to read the odds and figure out which horses have the best chance. Oliver picks a horse with his pocket money just for fun. Vincent picks one too. When the race ends, both their horses win. They make a lot of money but act like they lost so Zucco, the manager of the company he owes money, won't notice. They sneak out fast. Vincent uses some of the cash to pay off his bank debt and close the account. Then they spend the rest on junk food, arcade games, and dinner at a bar that no kid should ever be inside. At the same time, Maggie finishes work and checks her voicemail. The school called. They told her Oliver got into a fight and hurt another student. Vincent is drunk by now and can't drive, so they take a cab home. When Maggie sees them, she's furious. She yells at Vincent for taking Oliver out without permission and for not telling her about the fight. Vincent snaps back and says it's because she's never home. Maggie calls him selfish even though she doesn't know anything about his life. They argue until Vincent goes inside. The next day, Maggie meets with the school principal and Garati to talk about Oliver's behavior. She has to explain everything. She tells them about David cheating on her, the divorce, and now the custody fight. The principal and Garati both feel bad for her and say they understand. Meanwhile, Oliver and Robert are told to clean the bathrooms as punishment. While they're scrubbing toilets, they start talking. Turns out they have something big in common. Both their dads left when they were little. The punishment actually brings them closer. Robert gives Oliver back his phone, wallet, and house key. One day, Vincent gets called to the care facility by a woman named Shirley. She tells him he's behind on payments for Sandy's treatment. If he doesn't pay the full amount plus 3 months up front by next week, they'll have to move Sandy to a cheaper place. Vincent doesn't have that kind of money. When he leaves, he tips Anna and asks her to start doing Sandy's laundry. Then he does something desperate. He steals medicine from the facility. With Daka's help, he sells it, but only gets $100. It's nowhere near enough. Vincent takes all the money he saved from the bank. It's $2,700. Still not enough. So he goes to the horse track and bets it all on 3 different horses, hoping one of them wins. But what happens next is brutal. None of his horses win. He loses every single dollar. When he gets home, things get worse. Zucco is waiting for him. He's there to collect the debt. And this time he's not leaving without something. Zucco partner starts grabbing things from the house. Vincent sees him reaching for his wife's belongings and tries to fight him off. But before he can even throw a punch, he collapses and passes out on the floor. Zucco panics and leaves the house. That afternoon, Vincent was supposed to pick up Oliver, but he never shows. Oliver waits, then decides to walk home by himself. As soon as he gets there, he goes straight to Vincent's house. He finds Vincent lying on the floor, not moving. Oliver calls for help. Maggie rushes Vincent to the hospital for a scan. The doctors say he had a stroke. He needs therapy to recover. At school, Girardi gives the class an assignment. He teaches them about saints and asks each student to research someone they know and decide if that person could be called a saint. Oliver picks Vincent. When Oliver gets home, he runs into Daka. Oliver tells her what happened, and they go to the hospital together. Vincent is in the middle of speech therapy, trying to talk but struggling with every word. He gets frustrated and angry at himself. The tension builds, and Maggie asks Oliver and Daka to leave the room. Later, both Maggie and Oliver meets Vincent in the hospital. They help with his therapy sessions. Oliver and Daka even go to Vincent's house and clean the whole place, so it looks nice when he comes home. Slowly, Vincent starts getting better. The therapy works. Oliver visits him all the time and cheers him up, and that helps more than anything. Eventually, Vincent is released. When he walks into his house and sees how clean everything is, he's completely shocked. Daka stays to take care of him, and just like Vincent did with Oliver, she charges $12 an hour. On the other side, the custody trial begins, and it does not go well. David hired a sharp lawyer who digs up all kinds of facts. He brings up how Oliver was being watched by Vincent, who took him to bars and horse tracks and let him hang around Daka. That's when Maggie finds out Daka is a prostitute. The judge rules that Maggie has to share custody with David. She's heartbroken. Maggie goes straight to Vincent and explodes. She's furious about everything he did behind her back. But instead of apologizing, Vincent turns it around and blames her for letting Oliver spend time with someone like him in the first place. At home, he finds a pile of mail and messages on his phone. One of them stops him cold. There are 7 messages from Anna. Sandy died. He never got the messages because he was in the hospital. He's completely destroyed. The next day, he goes to meet Shirley. She hands him a small box. Inside are Sandy's ashes. Because no one heard from him, they had to cremate her like he'd asked them to do if she ever passed away. The court also orders Maggie to hire a babysitter. A woman named Imelda, hired by David, shows up to watch Oliver. When they get home, Oliver sneaks over to see Vincent. He finds him sitting alone in the backyard, staring at nothing. Oliver tells him he's sorry about Sandy. Vincent just tells him to stop caring and leave him alone. Oliver is hurt. He says Vincent isn't a failure, but Vincent doesn't want to hear it. He tells Oliver to go. To deal with the pain, Vincent starts throwing things away, everything that reminds him of Sandy. He tosses clothes, photos, everything from his bedroom into the trash. Oliver sees him doing it and quietly takes some of the things back. At school, Garati reminds everyone about the saint assignment. After school, Oliver and Robert start working on the research together. First, they go to the bar and talk to people who knew Vincent during the Vietnam War. Turns out Vincent was a highly decorated soldier, a major sergeant. Then Oliver talks to Anna and asks about how Vincent treated his wife. He also interviews Daka since she's one of Vincent's closest friends. 2 weeks pass. The day of the presentations arrives. Oliver is ready. Maggie even takes time off work to be there. Daka is in charge of bringing Vincent. She tricks him by saying she needs to go to the hospital, but she actually drives him to the school so he can watch Oliver's presentation. When it's Oliver's turn, he walks up to the front. He says that saints don't have to be perfect or religious. They can be normal people who show real commitment and care for others. He admits that some people might think Vincent doesn't deserve to be called a saint. He drinks, he smokes, he gambles, he swears, and he lies. But underneath all that, Vincent is good. Oliver tells the whole crowd about Vincent's life, how he grew up poor and learned to fight and gamble as a kid, how in 1965 he joined the army and went to Vietnam, how he saved 2 soldiers when they were surrounded by 2,000 enemy troops and earned a Bronze Star for bravery. Oliver talks about how Vincent agreed to watch him even though he didn't want to at first, because that's what good people do. He explains how Vincent washed his wife's dirty laundry by hand for 8 years because he never gave up on her. He says Vincent taught him to fight so he could stand up for himself. He even talks about being taken to the horse track, saying Vincent wanted to teach him about risk and consequences because life is unpredictable. Oliver mentions how Vincent would eat canned food while feeding his cat the good stuff because that's sacrifice. Then Oliver calls Vincent up to the stage and hands him a medal. The medal says sainthood. Sometime later, they all gather at the hospital because Daka has given birth. From that day on, Vincent's life changes. He's no longer alone. He spends his days surrounded by Maggie, Oliver, Daka, her baby, and even Robert, who comes over to eat and celebrate with them. Vincent finally has a family. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this story, and don't forget to subscribe for more recaps like this.